Okay, we're going to look at the tongue drop. This is another practical tool. Just to sort of backtrack for a moment, we've looked at the conceptual underpinnings of this stuff, how we create our reality, the nature of trances, trance repertoires, the transcendent self. We looked at the be, do, have model that links personal alchemy to creating the results we want in the world. And we looked at sphere of power, state and context, and all of these kinds of things. And we've looked at these two profoundly pragmatic skill sets, tuning into felt sense, which is really a huge superpower, and cognitive diffusion using the leaves on a river technique. And I just want to say, with regard to, if this is as far as you go, if you were to develop significant skill with working with and tuning into felt sense, and even if you were just to do that on its own, it will be a huge game changer for you in terms of your ability to maneuver in relation to your trances rather than being had by them all the time. So just learning to work with felt sense in and of itself is a profoundly powerful thing for assisting people in having the flexibility to step back from their trances. Bringing cognitive diffusion in, we've got a structured process which is actually developing a skill which ultimately becomes unconscious. The skill of being able to unconsciously recognize that a thought is a thought and just allowing it to disappear, just allowing it to move on through like weather blows through. You know, the big problem that we have is we get caught up in our thoughts and our thinking. We get caught up in the loop of it. It's like getting caught in a storm that feeds itself. But when we can see it for what it is, we can let it blow through. And when we develop this habit, if you like, of starting to allow things to blow through rather than becoming too attached to them, we detach from them and allow them to diffuse. This skill, hugely powerful. So we've got these two powerful skills, working with felt sense, cognitive diffusion. Develop skill with these. They are both game changers in and of themselves. So together, they are super powerful. Now, the next thing that we're going to look at is a simple tool, simple technique. And it's a cherry on top piece. For me, it's not nearly as important as the previous two, certainly not as important as felt sense. Some people might find it as useful as leaves on a river, but it's not like a super high power piece, but it is one that some people find particularly useful. It's the tongue drop. Now, in this moment, as you're listening to me speak, there's a good chance that your thoughts are just flowing along with the words that I'm saying. You're doing your best to make sense of what it is that I'm saying, to understand it. But at other times or places, how often do you get caught up in a lot of busy internal dialogue, a lot of agitated mental weather? How often do you get caught up in your thinking in this respect, in this sense? It can be like my friend Jamie Smart sometimes uses the example of a snow globe. You shake up a snow globe, you shake it up, and you see all these bits flying around inside of it. And that's a bit like what it can be like when our thoughts get shaken up and they're going around and round inside our head, and it makes everything cloudy. And the question is, what do you do? What do you do to still that? Well, you have to let it be still. You have to let it be still. When you can let yourself be still and your mind be still, your thoughts settle. Your thoughts settle. Now, the way we're thinking about it right now, we already talked about how when thoughts come up, they feed back into trances. So allowing your thoughts to settle can allow you to fall out of the trance that you may have got caught up in much more effectively. So here's another tool that you can use, and you're not really making anything happen. This is a way that you can bring your consciousness in to allow something to happen. So what I'm going to invite you to do in a moment, but not yet, let me just get you to practice it first, is to just notice the position of your tongue in your mouth. And what I'd like to invite you to do is just to practice this for a moment, is just to allow your tongue to become very soft and completely relaxed. So it just rests down on the bottom of your mouth, and you'll feel the tip of your tongue just resting ever so easily, ever so gently just on your, probably around about your gum line of your lower teeth. It'll just relax when you just completely let your tongue go. I'm trying to do it and talk at the same time, so I'm going to sound like I've had a dental injection if I do this. But it's just allowing that tongue to be completely relaxed, the tip of the tongue to be gently rested just behind the teeth or on the gum where the teeth join the gum. Just practice that for a moment, allowing the tongue to let go, be completely soft. And when you notice that, and you can go back, I want to move on with the audio, so I'm not going to leave huge pauses, but I'm introducing you to the idea. You can go back and practice it. When you get a sense of that, just kind of move your face, move your tongue, shift your whole body back into your kind of normal state. How that would be, just move a bit. And then what I'd like to invite you to do is to, I'm going to give you a moment, and I want you to do your best to fill your head with internal dialogue. I'm going to give you a few seconds to do this, and it's artificial. I'm aware that this is artificial, but do your best to start talking in your head about all sorts of things, just random observations, whatever. So go ahead, go do that now. Random observations, talking about stuff in your head, chatter, 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 now. And now drop your tongue and relax your tongue and let it settle, just as you did before. Noticing the tongue relaxed and resting there. And what happens? What happens to your internal dialogue? Now, if you're like most people, what you'll find is that your internal dialogue just kind of shuts down. And I'm not saying it's impossible to have internal dialogue while your tongue is relaxed and your tongue is dropped, but there's been experiments done that demonstrate that when people are sub-vocalizing in their mind, the muscles of their tongue, there is a neurological firing in the tongue. It's like there are micro muscle movements in the tongue. Because internal dialogue and external dialogue are related. Just the same as when somebody, thinks about their finger twitching enough, their finger often will twitch. Or if they think, if you were to imagine a fly crawling around on the tip of your nose, just the little feet of the fly tickling your nose, you'd get a sensation at the end of your nose. Because that's where your nerves are firing that according to what's going on inside of you. It's ideomotor. There's an ideomotor quality with the tongue. When we run internal dialogue, it creates micromuscle movements in the tongue. Now, when you not inhibit, but you allow the muscles of the tongue, the muscle of the tongue to become completely soft, it interferes with that connection. And there's a sort of backwash that quietens the mind. And that works well for many people. So it's a very simple tool. I include it here. And I'll say this, I include it here not because I personally use it a lot. Unlike felt sense, unlike the leaves on the stream, which I've made a lot of use from, the tongue drop is an interesting idea. And I include it here because I know some people get incredible value from it. It's not one I use much, not because it's not good or it doesn't work or anything like that. It's just I've got other tools, so I possibly don't need it. But I have found for some people it is a significant piece which is somewhat of a game changer for them. So I'm including it here for that reason.